please welcome Natalia and Zac on stage.
Excited for this big surprise, Zac. I guess we'll get to that at the end.
Hi, everybody.
Well, I have to say, I'm really thrilled to be on stage with you, Zac. I think I mentioned to you, this is a long time coming. I remember when OpenGov was launched, 2012, I believe. At the time, I was launching a impact and social entrepreneurship
You were like 9.
speaker series. Yeah, exactly. I was 9. Thanks for that. I was launching a speaker series in the U.S. Embassy in Sweden, and I reached out to Zac. He was too busy for me. We've been ships passing in the night. We've spoken at the same events, but testament to Vlad and the Texylvania team. We didn't meet in D.C. We didn't meet in San Francisco. We met in Cluj. So that is awesome. Since 2012, OpenGov has had an incredible roller coaster journey, now valued at around $2 billion with an illustrious board, including figures like Mark Andreessen. Last year, it was the largest private software transaction and probably one of the top 5 largest in the last 5 years. This company started in a shipping container in Kabul, Afghanistan. Zac, tell us the beginnings of OpenGov and how it all began.
Will do. Hi, everybody. I'm super happy to be here. I'm Zac. Thank you so much for talking with me, and thank you to Vlad for pushing me to come. I'm really grateful to be here. And that message at the end there had me gripped. I think maybe people didn't want to do a Tony Robbins-like session with you, Adrian, but I want to go to school with you on how to create joy while managing conflict, because that is one of the main parts of the game. So I grew up near government. My father worked in Washington, D.C. At the National Academy of Sciences, and I was an entrepreneur from a young age, mowing lawns, which is a very American kind of entrepreneurial, childhood thing. I ended up studying government in college. I went to law school. I did a master's degree in public administration. So I was a government nerd. After grad school, I went to Mexico and studied transparency and corruption in the Mexican government on a Fulbright fellowship. And then I had a brief law career. I was a law clerk for a federal judge and then a trial litigator before going overseas to Afghanistan. I served as an advisor to 2 United States Army generals on the anti-corruption task force. And it was there that 4 of us, Joe Lonsdale, who's a successful software entrepreneur, he's a co-founder of Palantir, me and Joe and 2 young Stanford technologists started OpenGov. We had been talking about it for the prior couple of years. So this was after the Great Recession. 3 governments in California went bankrupt. 12 were predicted to go bankrupt. And we saw these governments using like 30, 40-year-old green screen software. And we said, there's got to be a better way. We were very naive. We were a little courageous. And we started OpenGov, and we've made basically probably every mistake in the book.
Which we'll talk about.
It's turned into a 12-year overnight success.
Yay. I mean, most people run from government, and you've leaned in. And I think some of your board members have described OpenGov as the little engine that could. And you yourself have stated multiple times, selling software to government requires you to be batshit crazy. Tell us a story of a crazy time.
Sure. There's so many. I mean, I've been said no to so many times I can't actually remember. And so to the aspiring entrepreneurs in the crowd, there's a fine line between being crazy and this idea literally will never work and you're completely wasting your time and your investors' money, and you're actually seeing the world in a different way and anticipating trends. I feel very lucky. I give a lot of credit to Joe and one of our other co-founders, or really both of them, Dakin and Nate, for seeing, I think we all saw a possibility. You could say we saw, the age of efficient government before it became in vogue in the United States. But most people literally would say that line. I'd go meet with venture capitalists and they'd say, I came to Silicon Valley to get away from government. I don't want anything to do with government. And we were banging our heads against the wall over and over. I mean, our first sale was for $1,800, and it was to a mountain town in the eastern Sierras of California. These are what in the U.S. you might call hillbillies, or it's kind of backwoods. And we would do anything for a sale, like anything. Drive 6 hours for an $1,800 sale. It made no economic sense. So it was a level of relentless drive through a brick wall, crazy evangelical selling. And honestly, we built a culture around that. It's a very mission-driven company. The mission is to power more effective and accountable government. And so when you're mission-driven, you're able to do things that you just wouldn't do for money or for another type of transaction.
I mean, you biked across America, essentially
I did.
as a PR branding sales pitch.
I love a good adventure, and I used to climb mountains and do other things, and our head of marketing, I think I had told him I'd love to bike across the United States. He said, what if we called it OpenGov Across America, and you did some PR and blog posts, and you stopped and visited customers? And I said, if there's a way to live a personal dream while helping OpenGov, I'm in. And I dramatically underestimated how hard it would be. We had a sag wagon. We took my brother's Audi, and we covered it in OpenGov blue and called it the Cloud Cruiser. And it got washed away in a flash flood outside of Utah, and had many other misfortunes on that, while literally in the stress of running the company while I'm sitting on a bicycle for like 8+ hours a day. It was just anything to help the company.
You were taking Zoom calls while on the bike. I mean, that's like, intense.
Yeah, so.
I think you've stated that you almost folded the company 6 to 9 months in, and you almost lost it in 2019. Before we get into the more highs, tell us about those 2 lows.
Oh, man. So, look, some companies start working out of the gate. This was not one of them. I actually think more people have founder drama and founder change than is talked about. We had 2 of our co-founders left the business in the first year. So this wouldn't have happened without them, but we also, we're literally playing, shuffle. And I was in Afghanistan. I wasn't even the CEO at the founding. Joe and I were the first investors, board members, and I ended up coming home from Kabul and diving into the business full time, at which point I discovered this is not working. So we moved the chess pieces around on the board, and it's unbelievably painful. I mean, it's almost the level of conflict it's not indescribable, but it's right on the edge. Like, there were times where I was like, is there going to be physical violence in the office, like at work?
Between your co-founder, what
I'm
was
gonna
going
leave it
on
at
there?
that,
Okay.
But this is people, you're pouring your life into something, your ego, there's money involved. Like, things get intense to a level that, frankly, you can watch in the Silicon Valley TV show, or, it's like all that stuff is true. We probably had a couple more times. I would say we almost lost the business in probably 2015, 16, basically selling software for not enough money, spending tons of money, basically upside down, and getting said no to by just loads of investors. We got a bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card from Joe and his credibility, and Laureen Jobs came in and led around in the company when it ended up making sense 10 years later, and they got an excellent return on their investment. But at the time, it didn't look right, so I don't know. Maybe she saw something that I didn't. And then in 19, I went out to raise money, and I got 49 no's, and at the end of the show, I got a yes. It's just, it's tough.
Where does your perseverance come from?
I think it's a fear of failure, if I'm honest. I don't know. I'd probably be a better leader and CEO if I didn't have such a fear of failure. I'd be able to be even more kind of open and expressive and take more risk. But there's a lot of people who are driven by, deep-seated childhood fears of failure. And I would characterize myself as one of those. One of my challenges is how to get over that and play above the line in a more, looking at the horizon versus being tight and scared. That, I guess, a work ethic from high school wrestling, lawn mowing. I would say these types of companies take relentless drive. And I don't know how to advise anybody on when it would make sense to give up versus not, but I got a lot of advice: never give up. And when it got really dark, I'd be like, that's not an option.
How would your employees describe you as a leader?
Intense, charismatic, mission driven, and committed to the mission. I'm pretty good at sales and marketing, and spend a lot of time trying to build culture. I'm less good at management, operational excellence, and probably 20 other things. So
let's dive into the business. I mean, your father was a civil servant. You grew up around Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I sell software to people like my dad.
Yeah.
It's kind of Freudian or something. I don't know.
My mother was also, and still is, a civil servant in the city of Chicago. State and local.
What's her name and number?
Yeah. I got to keep her out of this. She always says, Natalia, stop talking about me. I'm going to get fired. So let's just stop there. But Chicago is an interesting town. Yeah. But I say this because state and local governments are tough. They're outdated. There is no one-size-fits-all for government. That must have been hell when it came to product market fit and your strategies.
Would you like to come run, communications or be a salesperson?
We can talk about it later, Zach.
Okay. You seem to know a lot about what you're talking. It's super hard. Enterprise software is really hard. Selling to an enterprise. I mean, consumer is really hard too. Business is just tough. I think there's very few easy paths to creating something that makes a big dent in the world or creates success. But enterprise is really tough, and government is enterprise plus 20% of more pain, because you need to basically get a consensus purchase, and then you need to have them usually get approval from their board. Imagine if, I don't know how many people running substantial companies, but imagine if you needed to buy anything, a new Salesforce license, and you needed to get your board to approve. It's crazy, and yet that's how most local governments operate. And then you got to go through purchasing and procurement. So it's super tough. But in the U.S., we have 19,000 cities and towns. It's a big country, and there's 3,000 counties, and there's 13,000 school districts and 20,000 state agencies. So it's not an infinite market, but it's actually a fairly big market. And these governments are like general purpose holding companies. They pave the roads, they process sewage, they generate electric power, they come to your house in the middle of the night if something's wrong, and they have a huge range of technology needs. So OpenGov is a vertical software company. Our vertical is state and local governments in the US, and we try to build and actually acquire more and more products to, instead of having a government be an Oracle shop, we want them to become an OpenGov shop. And we call it donuts and doorbusters. We show up with donuts, and then we bust down their door, and we bring our energy, ideally the best products in the category, and we sell.
I mean,
make change.
We're all talking about this now in the U.S. I'm sure you've all heard of Doge and all of that hoopla, and I think you, in some sense, were kind of the godfather of that movement quite early on. Can you tell a quick example of how OpenGov has transformed a specific city? Yeah,
just loads. It's one of the best parts of the job. It keeps so many of us. We work so hard at the company. There's about 800 people. And growing many a week. And what sustains us is these stories of change and customer success. The city of Los Angeles is using OpenGov to track all of its streets and sidewalks and then maintain and repair them to get ready for the 2028 Olympics. A huge topic in the United States now is around how we build more housing. the inflation and cost of housing. You might have heard of Ezra Klein and the abundance agenda. And a big part of this abundance agenda is why can't cities like San Francisco and many, many other cities approve new development permits?
Yeah.
It takes months or years to even renovate your bathroom if you want, let alone build a new apartment building. Our permitting and licensing suite, it streamlines this whole approvals process, saving days or months for the back office work that goes into all the inspections and all of that. And we help governments budget and plan so that they can show off where all the taxpayer dollars go. They can communicate with their boards and residents. So we get the most amazing. There was a city in Pennsylvania that was broken into by a vandal, presumably someone angry at the government. There's lots of angry people in the U.S. And they broke in and dumped a bucket of water on the server. The government is running a 30-year-old accounting system in the basement, dumped a bucket of water on it, fried it, and took down the whole government in the process. It has no accounting system. They don't know where any of the money's going. They can't plan.
It's insane, but not surprising.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And we help them stand up again in literally a matter of days, and the data's in the cloud. And we loved the story so much, we made a little video with like a fake, vandal and a mask, like breaking into the front door of the government.
You've spoken in past interviews about having some hard lessons around raising money and getting capital efficient. Can you talk a bit to that balance and any advice for people in the room?
I've developed a strange fascination with entrepreneurs that can bootstrap or get really far. And I don't know if Sasha's in here, and I don't know how much you bootstrap Superbed and other, but we've raised like $600 million in venture capital, and we had raised a couple $100 million kind of early. You end up diluting the company. You end up creating weird incentives. I talked about this on a podcast with Harry Stebbings.
Exactly.
I think you heard and mentioned. You get all these weird incentives with your venture partners. When they're trying to sell you on working with them, they're your best friend. But you even heard it yesterday. I actually thought she was outstanding, the woman from, I think, Clio. Mm-hmm. But she's like,
Sarah,
she's like, I need to get rich, And I just have started to see these incentives with board members and with investors that are very different. OpenGov is like not only my passion. This is my portfolio. Whereas even for Lonsdale, who's super passionate co-founder of OpenGov, he has 100 other companies.
Yeah.
Mark Andreessen's on the board. He's got 150 other companies. They want you to take more risk than you might want. And if I fail, it's a complete disaster for me. And if I fail, it's a whatever for them. And so I think we've also entered an age where don't go burn so much capital. Don't go raise so much venture capital. You'll keep the conflict of interest down. You'll own more of the company yourself, and you'll discover what's working in the company versus we spent so much time trying to figure out what wasn't working because we're spraying cash all over the place, hiring salespeople, hiring more engineers. So we have a wonderful leadership team and a principal kind of COO and president who's very cost disciplined. And it's hard on the company, but it's running better than ever.
Talk to me a little bit about AI. How are you using it currently, and where do you see opportunities 5-10 years from now on how AI can really modernize government?
We're going all in. We're AI first. We're changing it starts with the culture. We've got to be open to learning, experimenting. We preach to all these governments in the United States that they have to be open to change and to modernizing and to learning. And actually, it starts for us around AI. We got to be open to change. And it's very hard for people, including dopey, government corruption people or salespeople or like me. And so we're changing the culture to make it more open to experimentation, to using AI. We're hiring people and just ask, are you curious about it? We're building product with AI, so our software development lifecycle, we're getting the AI into features, and we're trying to train customers. I think it's probably slightly overhyped in the near term, and as massive technology transitions go, it may be underhyped in a decade or two to kind of time frame. That's kind of where I'm shaking out right now. I can still do my job the way I did my job a year or two ago. Does that mean there'll be a huge correction? Maybe, I don't know. Things are moving faster than anything I've seen since I've been, cognizant in the last 25 years. But it feels like this is a massive shift. This is an internet-sized shift.
Talk to me a little bit about the sale. You were bought by Cox last year, huge success. Why did you sell? What was that journey like?
So we sold OpenGov last year to a very large family business in the United States called Cox Enterprises. They own the largest private cable company, the largest automotive company outside of the car manufacturers. It's one of these, almost like a conglomerate. They had developed a fascination for government software. They love businesses that are durable and predictable and can generate a lot of cash flow and can last for generations. And we built a relationship over 3 or 4 years. They underwrote a major acquisition we did 3 years ago, which has been very successful. And I knew they were interested. I approached them because I could see, I had a venture-backed board, many of them 10 years in on the business, and I could see them a little like, oh, this is a little engine that could, and I'll tell you, if you're not Uber, Pinterest, Coinbase, it's tough to capture the real attention. I mean, they like me, they like the mission, but like, am I really changing the pocketbook of Andreessen Horowitz? Not really, if I'm honest. John Chambers, the former chairman and CEO of Cisco, was on our board. He's a mentor and friend. Am I really changing his life or pocketbook? And if I can't, I've got a natural conflict of interest. And after X number of years, I felt like I had to get these people their money back if that's what they want. I was a little, and we're so we swept the board out, swept all the investors out, and we have a capital partner that has deeper pockets than, frankly, most private equity firms, and they're very aligned on long-term growth. And the longer I do this, the more that your alignment on long-term versus short-term really matters. You might hire an executive that has a 2 to 4 year time frame, and as a founder, you might be thinking about 10 or 20 years. You're going to get all sorts of friction. And then you're going to have to use Adrian's techniques. And so anyway, we're a year and a quarter in, and it is a big change on me. I have a board that really cares. I went from a board that was like, whatever you want to do, Zac, you're the founder, do what you want to do.
It's a big shift. I was going to ask about the culture and leadership
and the culture's different. They do, $24 billion a year in revenue. Yeah. And, and they have built scale and processes and running big businesses. And we want to make OpenGov into a big business, but it's not there yet, and so we're feeling out how to work with each other, but so far so good.
I mean, in some senses, you were almost an accidental CEO. You didn't seem to have sought out this masochism of being a tech founder. You had a grueling but amazing journey. What keeps you going?
Okay, well,
and would you do it all again if you knew what a shit show it was?
So one, I'm a recovering lawyer, so I'm accidental, and a lot of it's just luck about kind of being in Silicon Valley, forming friendship with Joe. I helped him start his first venture fund, which has now become 8VC. So some of that, I got asked in the hallway by a young, aspiring entrepreneur, what to do. I said, read every story about, business and entrepreneurship. Go work in a winning business. Mm-hmm. Heck, go start your own business and fail a bunch. But also, and I hate to say this because I'd love there to be an amazing network in Cluj or Bucharest or so on. But being in Silicon Valley has been a total blessing. I mean, I just get to meet so many amazing people and get the inspiration and so on. So I feel very lucky that I randomly moved there to be a lawyer. And then we had a whole mess, and we emerged, exercising leadership and so on. What keeps me going? I love the mission. The people we get to work, we're building a culture, and it's mission-driven, nice, kind, incredible, driven people. I am endlessly fascinated with how government works. So I have an intellectual stimulation, both from business and from the industry. And then you had a third question. What was the third question?
Would you do it all again?
Would I do it all again? It's been knowing what I know, it's hard for me to answer that. The answer is probably not. It's too painful. It's just insane. The story goes that, if you knew how painful it was, you probably wouldn't do it. And that really speaks to me. I certainly would be better. I'd make a lot less mistakes. I'd move a lot faster. I'd probably have less gray in my hair, and my shoulder wouldn't hurt, my knee, and so.
But I like that you've talked a lot about how building is essentially very psychological, and you learn a lot about people. People think it's the tech, but it's very human. What have you learned about people?
It's a people game. People build tech. Tech doesn't build tech. Maybe that's going away in the next year or two. But
don't say that, please.
People build tech. These are people. These are organizations of people. This is a people game, and the development of EQ, of leadership, of management, the ability to hire amazing people, the ability to bring people together, the ability to terminate people that are not working out. These are skills that need to be developed mostly on the job. They don't teach them in school. They don't teach them in business school. Many VCs don't have this skill. That's partly why they're investors.
We've seen that in the last few years. Yes.
And so you're absolutely right.
What is the worst advice you've ever gotten?
I had a coach, and he's actually an amazing guy, and he helped me a lot. And the going got really tough in 2019, and he led an offsite with my exec team at the time, and he pulled me aside afterward. I said, "What do you think, man?" I said, "That wasn't so good." He said, "This is a joke." He said, "This. You're better than this. You should get rid of this company and go do something else. You could be somebody." He was like, "You could be somebody. You could do something big." In 2019, we were worth $200 million, not $2 billion.
Yeah.
And we had raised a bunch of money. So you need to understand, when the company's worth this, well, if it raised 150, you're not creating a great deal of equity value. And then we clawed and crawled and picked up momentum, and things started working and have created a lot of equity value and some success after. And he's calling me. He's like, "Don't listen to me anymore. I don't know." So that ranks as high on bad advice. Because it rocked me, and I trust this guy, and he's like, "Don't do this anymore." You talk about wanting to quit. You got people you love and trust.
It takes a lot of inner compass to keep going, man. I have to ask you, you recently had a son.
Yeah.
1 year old.
Baby Freddie.
I'm always asking entrepreneurs around balancing. I had my daughter at 23, so I don't know a career without the balancing act, and it's brutal. How has fatherhood changed you?
I'm really enjoying it, in large part because my wife, Julia, is an amazing mother, and she's bearing a huge, huge load. But he also physically, he's 13 months old and he weighs 30 pounds.
I've seen the photos. He's a big boy.
Very proud. He broke the scale at the doctor's appointment. But I need to get home earlier. We used to work in the office, 8, 9, 10 at night every night, kind of startup, mindset. I have to wake up earlier, get a workout in early, try to come home at 6:30. But it's a nice perspective, and thank gosh the business is a bit bigger and there's amazing people in it. Otherwise, I don't know how you could be a real present parent and do something from nothing. I don't know how people do that.
It's hard, and it gets harder, my friend, but I have faith in you. Yes. As we wrap up here very quickly, final piece of advice to these young entrepreneurs here in Cluj.
Bring the energy.
Love it.
The longer I do this, the more the core differentiator with anyone I work with is their enthusiasm.
Yeah. Totally agree. Positive energy. And speaking of that, I see some surprise and some machinations are occurring. So, Philip, would you like to announce the surprise?
Yes. But first of all, thank you so much,
Thank you,
Natalia.
Natalia. Thank you very much.